This is the C Word Podcast. Everything talked about in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial advice. You should always seek professional financial advice. Now, onto the podcast.
So do you know what? Do you know what's, about a week before this was going to happen, like today, I was thinking to myself, like, this has been a pretty quiet month so far. And then Trump...
Honestly,
quiet. What rocks up with his tariffs, his wild idea about tariffs.
This is not financial advice.
Yeah, massively. And I have never seen market turmoil like what we saw. Like, just
chaos.
I'm not even I'm not even that old, right? But I didn't think I'd ever see something like this in my lifetime. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the fourth once in a lifetime crash in our lifetime.
I think I'd never seen my crypto portfolio look so small. It was just a sad state of affairs, and I'm in a lucky scenario because I sort of don't need this money. I felt really sorry for the people that like rely on this shit. They need that money. That's their, not a great idea, but it is their like end game, you know, their thing that they're banking on to sort of live the rest of their life, you know, and they put everything into crypto. And then that happens, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you do in that scenario? What do you do in that scenario? A lot of these people voted for Trump.
Hodl. That's all you can do.
That's all they can do. Hodl, right? And Mr. X over here, I'd love to know what happened on your side, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit rough, only because I was actually on holiday in Barcelona when this all happened. So coming back and seeing my clients' portfolios down like 10-15% is beyond chaos. So yeah.
How were they feeling about it?
Loved it.
Yeah, no one loves it, and no one actually wants to buy the dip either.
I think that's interesting.
I think that's what's also horrible.
I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, same. Because I was wondering why. Because I was telling everyone to buy the dip.
Yeah,
not financial advice.
Yeah. I think
this is not financial advice.
Some people did buy the dip, though, right?
Yeah, some people did.
Because Trump got everyone in a room that bought the dip and was like, "This guy made 300 billion yesterday."
I think a lot of institutions definitely bought the dip, but in terms of like private retail investors, I think it's also quite difficult, and that's because like. In wealth management, a lot of people actually think that it's super ultra high net worth individuals, and the bulk of the time it's mainly like Mrs. Miggins living in Devon who's worked her whole life accruing wealth.
Yeah.
She's got 600 grand in her SIP. So I don't want to buy the dip. She doesn't want to buy the dip. So yeah.
You probably shouldn't say your own name if we're going to be anonymous.
Oh, sorry, I'm Mr. X.
Don't worry. I will edit this out.
Please. It was absolute chaos. So basically, my first day. I literally just got about 40 emails, and I'm just wondering why. Next thing I know, Matt's messaging me as well, saying, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm on a beach in Barcelona. Lo and behold, Trump's pressed the red button, tariffs galore. But it's all right. He's got a 90-day pause now, so it's cool.
Well, yeah. And it's funny the thing that, Matt, you keep mentioning as well about, like, how the sequence of events between, you know, markets crashing, the announcements, huge amounts of Ethereum or cryptocurrency being bought just before announcements happened and send it straight back up. And I do believe they call that
insider trading.
Insider trading.
Yeah. Although when it's usually insider trading, but then Trump just went on Truth Social and told everyone to buy. So now it's like outsider trading.
That is insane.
Wild.
Yeah,
this is insane. Like, how is that? No one batted an eyelid, by the way.
No.
People are talking about it, but no one batted an eyelid.
I think it does back up his, like, because it's difficult trying to make out that you're a man of the people while also being born a millionaire and inheriting half of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like, it's a tough act, but he's pulling it off. And I think, like, giving people financial advice.
This is not financial advice.
Just before you do something crazy is like, you need to give people something. Otherwise, it's just you making loads of money. Whereas if you're like, everyone on Truth Social, get some advice and I'm a man of the people. But it also means that then people are more likely to go on Truth Social. And if more people go on Truth Social, then there's more traction for that company, and then that company becomes worth more. So there's like all these ways that he's making money. The Trump fund is making money that he's nothing to do with.
Yeah. And I think, on the train in, I was thinking about this whole situation. I think what's happening here is that the blockchains are anonymized by design, and they are taking advantage of that. Right? It's not tracked.
Yeah.
It can't be traced back to the person. Anything to do with identity is stripped out like immediately before it's even sent to the blockchain. So no one knows, unless they know they can tie you to an address, right? No one knows who that person is.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, they are taking advantage of this.
Yeah. But they've done the same with all of those things, right? It's like, even the sort of the rules in the Constitution of the United States. It's like, you're not really supposed to do that as a president because it was invented by 13 gentlemen slave traders.
Just drop that in there.
Yeah. It's like, they were gentlemen and they had these rules where it was like, well, if you're president, then you wouldn't do this. And it's like, but I can do it. And his whole presidential journey, even in the first term, was doing stuff that was outside of what is normally done, but it's not.
Yeah.
Specifically said that you can't do it. It's just one of those things where, like, the tax returns is a great one. Where it's like, but presidents always release their tax returns, and he's like, yeah, okay, I'm not doing it. And there's not one rule that says that I have to. And everyone was like, oh, yeah, we did not make a rule for that. The same with Bitcoin, where it's like, there's obviously not going to be a thing in the Constitution that's like, you can't buy 1 million Bitcoin and then make the price of Bitcoin move because it was 500 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And because cryptocurrency is not yet, I would say, officially recognized as a store of value. I don't know. Like, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so it completely depends on the jurisdiction, right? So whether, like in the UK, obviously, it came in 2020, they were going to start regulating or at least licensing it in the UK. But it's only this year now that they're actually putting the framework in place for what that's going to look like. They're kind of doing it in a staged approach, heavy on the stablecoin side.
Yeah, I noticed as well.
Yeah, so I think it was a bit of confusion before because it was, going to all be managed by the FCA. They realized, wow, this is a huge market, especially a growing market in the UK with, cross-border payments and utilizing stable coins for the bigger purpose. And I think that they were like, we can't handle this, so we're going to pass it over to Bank of England. So I think, and yeah, I need to, again, fact check, but I swear that the Bank of England, as of, I think it was September of last year, started to recognize stable coins as like an actual asset because they could realize that it holds its value essentially backed one-to-one.
Yeah.
That it
sort of proved itself over time, I guess, right? And the stability is...
Yeah, and I mean, there's only been a few cases where it hasn't been essentially backed one-to-one, especially in my time. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it's just such a growing market, it cannot be ignored anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I thought. There's so much money in crypto, and the fact that everything's public in itself is wild, right? Because you can see the money moving, right? So, for example, if I go to a Uniswap and I go to the liquidity pools page, and then you see the transactions moving, and it says like 3 minutes ago this moved, 5 minutes ago this moved, 10 minutes ago this moved, and when you look at the amounts, people are moving millions in one go. They're just shifting millions around, right? Yeah. And I'm looking...
Imagine getting an MEV sandwich on that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. Yeah.
And I moved. Freudian.
So I moved all the money that I made in that.
All that money that I have, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just watching my own transactions go through. But when I looked at this list, just updating millions of USDC moving at the same time, I'm just like, these are people hiding their wealth.
Yeah. So on that point, obviously working, like, it's such a big market right now, cross-border payments utilizing USDT as the underlying payment rail. And there are like big businesses, big corporates who are all doing this. And I know that it's in jurisdictions where they don't necessarily have the right, accounting systems in place to monitor that or actually really fully track it. So it's a huge hiding of wealth. And
Yeah.
but equally, I completely think that it's transforming the way that we look at traditional finance, in a sense that it's going against Swift, and it's really kind of speeding things up. The world is moving quicker because of this way of transacting. But we just don't have the right infrastructure in place to be able to track it right now. And I think that's also why it's...
By the way, infrastructure for blockchain is so hard because everything's decentralized, right? This makes everything just difficult. So many people don't know why it's hard, why data is hard. And there's this term in the space saying decentralization is hard. Being someone that's worked both on the back end and the front end and all the infrastructure systems, having to pool together data about like your portfolio is actually such a data intensive task, because if you think about a traditional bank account, you've got your record, and then you've got a list against your record that just says how much you've got, right? GBP X amount, USD X amount, right? But in the blockchain space, it doesn't work like this, right? Each token is a smart contract, and each smart contract holds the data about who owns what. If you consider the fact that you've gone from everything being in one place to first having to find out what assets like Mr. X owns, but to do that, you have to query every single token that exists just to find out how much this one person has in their portfolio.
You just go through every token and see what wallet it's in.
Yeah.
And then you see if it's in the wallet that you want it.
Yeah.
The one that you're checking.
And that is an incredibly data compute expensive exercise.
Yeah.
And that's why whatever service you come across that does blockchain data, it's costing them a lot of money. Not only is it costing them a lot of money, but it's often not really commercially viable. And a lot of these companies that offer data either go bust or their data is poor.
What about the quantum chips, though, if they exist?
This, good point. Like, this could speed things up for sure, but we haven't really applied the quantum chip technology to operating systems.
There's one in a room and someone's using it to play with, but it's not being used for anything substantial.
They're not like, they've not put it in a computer and then put it in a Mac in front of you, or put it in a server to be used.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything like that. It's just really just...
It feels like when they first made Watson and it was just in a room that IBM could use.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stage we're at with like quantum processors or stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, this is why, so just coming back to what you said about like, the tooling isn't there. The tooling isn't there, and I think that's what they're struggling with. In the last episode, we talked about how actually the minds that are needed to make using crypto in shops aren't even working for the Bank of England. They're not even working for the FCA. They're not even working for like the financial institutions. They're on X having arguments.
Yeah, I think it's been such a shame that like there's been so many downfalls, because I feel that when we start going on the up and where things are moving, there's some momentum in the UK and globally, something happens. Like things were looking great, and then FTX went down, all the banks went down. They then became stricter on, well, not all the banks, but some of the key ones that crypto businesses were using, Signature, Silvergate, Silicon Valley. They went down, and it just completely set the framework then for more heavier, AML checks, fraud checks. Crypto businesses then weren't being accepted. They couldn't get banking. So it's like, when things start to get going, something happens and it just slows things down again.
That's what's been a massive problem, actually, is that it was the Wild West. For such a long time, it was the Wild West, and to an extent, it sort of still is. Mr. X, you were asking about like financing in crypto and how it all works and stuff. And the impression I got was, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were asking how do you basically make money out of thin air?
110%. But I think one thing I'm still failing to understand, I think this is what drew me to you guys' podcast in the first place, because you guys actually care about the tech behind crypto. A lot of people don't. They just want to make money. And I think that is actually the major disparity. Like, why it's not actually getting adoption. People don't care about the tech. Well, certainly I don't. I care about making money on the asset class, not like what's going on.
But that's what people
TradFi.
understand.
Yeah.
But that's what people understand, though, don't they? They don't, like, I don't, in the same way that when I drive my car, I don't really care about the ins and outs of the engine.
Yeah.
Sort of just want it to take me from A to B.
And I don't think many people do.
Yeah.
It's just like when you look at a company
Definitely
on...
do.
Yeah. Like when people buy a business on the stock market, right? They don't actually think I'm buying a business. They're thinking I'm buying Amazon for $100 a share. And that's it. They don't think, well, Amazon's actually a massive business. They're just thinking Amazon's price is $100 and I'm going to sell it at 120. Same people are thinking the exact same thing in terms of Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, I think.
Yeah.
But then that's why liquidity pools is interesting, because then you make your money by people trading stuff, not by buying things yourself. Yeah. It's like you're becoming the casino.
This is not financial advice.
So, you know, I was going to put together, I've been thinking about this for ages, and I'll probably release this as a proper long form video, but I was going to put together a video showing people how to make money. It is like the number one question I get asked by everyone. They're like, oh, how do I make money with crypto? It's still like that. So many people have lost money, but the dream is still alive. The fire is still there. And I don't really understand why, but like people still see it as like a magical money making thing. And the reason I think is because everyone knows someone that did make a lot of money. Of course,
they've had a success story.
Yeah. But I would say for every one person that's made some money, there might be 1,000 or 10,000 that lost money.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to this story, but like, I think it's finally time, like, just to show people how to make money with crypto, but low risk using stable coins. So it's low risk.
This sounds like a massive contradiction. Crypto and
Well,
low risk.
I'm just being realistic.
Not financial advice.
Yeah. This is not financial advice.
Absolutely. I'm just being realistic. I think people need to be knocked down a peg. And it's not like...
How do I make money? You make a very small amount of money.
Yeah, I'm going to show you, but it ain't what you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, it would be between two stable coins, liquidity pool and Uniswap or something like that, was $50 on each side. And that is low risk, low reward, but it would educate people.
How low is the reward?
You would probably be
like $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Well, the thing is, I'd be interested to share this with you, because you might turn around to say this is still higher than what you'd make.
Yeah, we actually had a chat on the way here where, so we were looking at
Cosmos?
Yeah, a load of different coins that offer quite a high APY just for staking or staking your coins with them. And there's somewhere there's like 15%. And you're never going to get more than 4%, 4.5% from a bank. But then if you put all of your coins into Cosmos and it goes down, because you're getting 15% of those coins, and if those coins are not worth anything, then
and I think
the growth isn't worth anything.
I think this is where we need to be careful in terms of when we say it could be used as a store of value, because ultimately, when you chuck in any form of volatility, I don't want my asset to go down in value and then still get a yield. There's two factors at play.
But then that's like Ethereum has 2.4.
Yeah, but if I put 100 quid in a bank,
I
know that 100 quid is going to be there in 3 years and still get 5%. Whereas if I put 100 quid in Cosmos, the price could go down 50%, even though I'm still getting a 15% yield.
But then what about the use case of like, you could have $100 and then in, say, 3.5 years' time, it's not worth anything because no one trades with America anymore.
Still a possibility.
Right. It was a big learning thing for me. I remember the day that I had my first Uniswap position, and you talked me through it on a call.
Yeah, we did it together, didn't we?
Yeah,
I remember.
We were on a video call, and I went on Uniswap and connected my wallet and really slowly set up my first pool.
How long ago was that? A long time ago.
Ages. I found the NFT the other day. There was like the Uniswap position.
Oh, really? No way. It's crazy. So
I closed it when took a step away, and I basically, at the wrong time, changed all my coins.
Story of our life.
Took loads of coins that were about to go off and just put them into Ethereum and closed all my Uniswaps and
Oh, no way. Always the way, mate.
took a couple of years being like, I can't just sit and watch all these trades all day.
Yeah, this is why.
Hashtag bot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why when when all these dips happen and all this carnage happens in the market, I've taught myself to just take a breather. And I advise this to anyone, right? To anyone. Teach yourself how to take a step back and go and do something else.
Yeah.
Go down to the pub and have a pint.
Touch
Just
grass.
try and forget about it. Like me of all people, right? I have really bad FOMO. I can't take it. Right? It drives me absolutely mad. So it has taken years of like re-engineering myself and my mind and stuff to try and like learn how to take a step back. And do you know what? Every single time it stopped me from losing money.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
There was some good
You're not
stuff
making
though.
mad moves.
Yeah. Which I'm used to making.
Because I had the same thing, and sometimes, like when we first started hanging out, me and Kira would just stay up all night because neither of us wanted to back down and go to bed. And it was like one night in Kira's flat in Elephant and Castle that from scratch, starting at 2 a.m. after being at the pub, we went and built a gesture control
I remember.
screen. It was like a touch screen that you didn't have to touch, and it worked from like a couple of millimeters away with this Minority Report screen in his
It
bedroom.
was literally a Minority Report style screen. Like that was
It
like,
was mad. I can't
was
believe we even made it work.
I know, that was like 10 years ago. So basically, can you imagine this? Imagine this. These are the type of people that we are. But we were absolutely wasted. Went back to my flat. My room was effectively like what a robot factory might look like. It just had pieces of technology everywhere. There
Had
was
a bedroom
drawer.
this size. There was a bed in the corner, like a single bed in the corner, and the rest of it was just like a workshop.
It was a workshop. It literally looked like a technology workshop from the future, like a mad scientist.
Yeah.
And we just put a load of together.
Yeah.
And we ended up
Just
making...
grabbing bits and wiring
do
them
you know
up.
what I mean? Which is wild. Hence why, in the fast forward to today, we're basically doing the same thing with technology and crypto now.
Yeah.
You know, and so just
some more realistic hours of the day.
and trying to make some money in the process, which is not going so well.
This is not financial advice.
Thanks.
All
Croc.
going slowly.
Yeah.
Or going too slow for my liking, or too volatile for my liking as well, right?
Or you just run out of money to buy the dip.
Yeah, pretty
That's a
much.
possibility.
Yeah, that's a high
The dip
possibility.
is dipping, but I have no money to buy the dip.
Yeah. You know, so if I had the money, I would just be buying dips, left, right, and center, right? But, you know, you get humbled in several ways, including losing lots of money. But yeah, just coming back onto your point, by the way, of the Bank of England, how did it go from, or why did it go from the FCA to the Bank of England? Like, I don't understand why that happened.
Yeah, I don't think there was too much of a thought process behind it. It was just more so who would be the best party to deal with this. And I feel that stable coins and looking at how that's integrating in with traditional financial services falls outside of the FCA. They're there as being a regulator.
Right, so they're really just there to enforce the rules.
Exactly.
And
Whereas
make up the rules.
make up.
Yeah, Freudian.
To be fair, like this is the year that they're kind of building the framework. So it's very much based off the traditional FCA handbook based on, you know, normal payments, right?
Okay.
But essentially this whole framework is just being built out this year. So no one knows what it even looks like yet because it's coming out in stages, you know, quarterly.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to it, I just think that, you know, the FCA recognised that if this is going to be a financial instrument, it should sit with the likes of the Bank of England as opposed to the regulator.
Yeah, no, that
even though
makes
they're
sense.
defining the rules around it, they just didn't think that it should have sat with them.
Yeah, that makes sense because I remember going to a sort of like a mini conference and the Bank of England were there. And I sat in on their little talk that they did. And the guy who runs the Bank of England technology, he was like at the top. And he runs their technology sector and also I guess the future money side of things as well. And they were testing a British stablecoin internally.
Yeah,
Brick-
so
Brickcoin.
GBPT exists.
Really?
Yeah. It's been around for years.
Not Bitcoin. Bitcoin was something else, wasn't it?
Bitcoin was the first thing they talked about. GBT is
Right.
like just a tethered.
GBPT is the
No way.
Yeah.
I did not know that existed.
I can't think of the name of the company, but they obviously my previous business, we used to do a lot of cross-border payments. So they approached us probably over 2 years ago. They're the first company in the UK. I believe it was Isle of Man where they're registered.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
It's funny because everyone was moving to Isle of Man at that time, and it was like, it's such a small place and there's only so many houses that they can put the tech team in.
That's what you want to invest in. Property and tax havens.
Oh my gosh, like literally, I was like, how are they going to...
Giving me too many ideas here.
Yeah.
This is not financial advice.
Stock exchange, which house, tax havens.
And it was like, yeah, they approached us and said, do you see much of a market for this? And we were like, no, unfortunately not, because most of our clients who are looking to these payments all want dollar. Hence why Tether, not even really USDC, but definitely Tether was our key instrument there. But yeah, GBPT exists, and it was audited by Grant Thornton, I believe, so one of the big four.
Right.
But yeah,
That's wild. And
I don't know too much about the one that you're talking about, though.
Bitcoin. I wonder if Bitcoin was actually just the marketing name for whatever was underlying underneath. I don't
Maybe
know.
it was.
Like,
I thought it was more of a separate, like they were just making a coin that was like a British
right.
government owned,
Okay.
like a meme coin, but for
But
Britain.
right. Could have been.
Yeah.
It could have well been.
Yeah, but maybe it was GBT.
Yeah.
So I don't remember reading about it being tethered.
It might be a different one.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
it might be.
yeah.
Because I imagine that anything that the Bank of England has got anything to do with, they're going to want it to match the utility of the pound. But Mr. X is shaking his head.
I think it's not that I'm shaking my head, but it's just I can't question to the open floor. What is the utility of having a central bank digital currency in the first place, other than to track what your subjects are spending their money on? And
Good point.
knowing
Because we
how
have
to
a
tax them.
pound coin
Yeah.
already.
Hmm.
My theory, and I'm just collecting my thoughts here, right? My theory is that they're maybe looking into the future here, and they're seeing the future of payments. And I think this is why when blockchain and, these coins came along, it, especially in, like I would say like highly technological countries, they didn't ban it. They didn't outlaw it. They just decided to watch what was going to happen here because they detected that this was more of an evolution of the old style money system, and there was a natural evolution of how people use payments and how they deal with finance happening, and they just sat back and watched.
But then surely Satoshi's probably, I don't know if he's alive or not, turning in his grave, because it just shows that there's a disparity between blockchain and then crypto. And then the powers that be are just using blockchain and taking it into a TradFi system, which then would ultimately defeat the purpose of crypto. Thanks. I was away from this.
That was the right sound effect at the right time.
I was thinking though, like another reason to do it, like we talked about last week, how the biggest blockchains, when we did the top 10,
Yeah.
and it was like Coinbase and
Base.
Base
Yeah.
and Binance were like two of the top 10 biggest. So if you set up a coin on its own blockchain that's for a country and it's operating at that size, then you're also like collecting gas, which is effectively like
Yeah.
a really simple tax on transactions, which we don't currently have on pounds, right? There's no tax on sending money. So maybe they were just setting it up because it's
Or is
another
there?
way. I think maybe certain amounts you have to pay tax on transactions.
No, I not that I deal with transactions anyway,
Okay.
but I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be like a new way to gather money. Like if they set up and be like, oh, we're moving from the GBP to GBPT, then yeah, you just get to skim every transaction.
It might be on Trump's tariff card next.
Could be. What isn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What isn't?
Yeah, I think I was confused about Tether. So we were talking privately about the MEV scam, and someone lost like hundreds of thousands of dollars because they were transferring from one stable US dollar coin to another. Just seems like the most pointless thing, because if they're both tethered, then like
What's
what
the
difference
point?
does it make?
I think the only reason someone would do that is if they were looking to work with a platform that was, say, circle focused or tether focused. So
Right.
it's, you know,
That's really interesting.
yeah, I think that's the only reason
Yeah.
you would ever do stable to stable, right?
Because, you know, Tether involved in a few things, and one of them is like, is it Truth? Or there's like a decentralized video platform, and I can't remember the name of it, but it became like very heavy alt-right when they all got banned from YouTube.
Right.
And it was a lot of like American right-wing truthers sharing videos on this platform, and it's managed by Tether.
Not good.
Interesting.
Not a good look.
This is not financial advice.
But yeah, it was very much like, that's such a long applause. Yeah, they sort of have, they invest in messaging and video sharing and all these decentralized programs, but they're being used a lot by the alt-right. So maybe it was someone in America that had USDC, because Coinbase is an obvious choice if you're investing as an outsider, and then being like, oh wait, I'm actually more involved in the Trump side.
Yeah, without realizing it. Or intentionally with realizing it, like knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was someone who was like works for Trump that was moving a load of dollars over to try and purposefully fund things like right-wing video sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yikes.
might be a bit of a naive question, but stablecoins, are they pegged to the local currency?
Yeah, so you can have, there's loads of different stable coins. It's just which ones have been audited that make them credible. So I know that they have obviously got one, we've got GBPT, which is audited, USDT, USDC. I think it's USDC's been audited. I don't believe USDT has, or is it the other way around?
We did some research after the last one, and
Yeah.
it was once, and they didn't have enough dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for USDT.
Yeah.
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 And then when I was reading about it, there was a thing saying that they sorted it out, but I couldn't find out how they sorted it out.
So on their website, they have a transparency report, something like that. A page
yeah.
Yeah, that basically says how much, like, it looks like the majority of their treasury has now been made up with actual, like, dollar to coin, you know, binding. But there's still a portion of it that is not accounted for. But when I first saw that report many years ago,
They have the certificate, though. That IOU that they wrote for themselves. I mean, like, and don't worry about the
that's
rest.
basically the rest of it. You know, so you can go to their website and check, and there is a small percentage, I think it's like 11%, that's still unaccounted for, but I think they're trying to make up the treasury, or it's maybe getting smaller over time.
Yeah.
So they're doing it, but back when the first report was done, it was like 75% or something of it was just like missing, do you know what I mean? Or something like that. And they tried to say, oh yeah, well, this white paper is the rest of it, you know, or something like that, you know. You know. But check on their website, like, you know, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, so it might not be correct.
Yeah.
This
But you can essentially set up one anywhere as long as it's goes through those processes.
Interesting.
Are you getting ideas, Mr. X?
I always have ideas.
Yeah. Tell me about your...
No rug pulling, though.
No rug pulling, no.
None whatsoever.
Just set up a tether for every currency. Right.
Well, I'm
You
surprised.
just get a load of it, like buy 1 million dong and do a Vietnamese
I'm
tether.
surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised that people haven't done this sooner, though. But is it because there's no regulation, or do people want the regulation to be protected?
I think if you're going to go and do something like this, it needs credibility, right? So platforms aren't going to work with a non-credible stablecoin, or one that hasn't been, you know, gone through the audit process. The same way that the likes of big exchanges won't allow any tokens on their platform until they've gone through that vetting process. So there is a form of risk management there. But yeah, it kind of, what's the point of spending all this money or creating something if you know it's not going to get listed?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think, you know what's going through my head now as a developer is the bars solo. Right, you know, so, like, when I say the bar solo, I'm talking about the development bar. Do you know what I mean? It's so easy just to spin up a token.
Yeah.
Right? It's so easy to, you can get an audit on the cheap. Right?
Yeah. You could vibe code a token.
Well, I've got vibe coding here, by the way. We'll come on to that.
Yeah.
Right. Because, I'll stop there. Yeah. So, But yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how easy is it for me just to boot up a token ASAP? You know, initially mint one, for example, just one, and have my pound coin here and go, that is for this coin. And have it audited by a mate, right? Do you know what I mean? And get some, do you know what I mean? Like, just feels like the bar's a bit low. And I think this is why when there's no regulation in place and the financial institutions don't recognize cryptocurrency as a real store of value, the public don't have the faith that maybe some might do, but I'm not sure.
But I think that's where if you're wanting to, you know, invest in something and you say, oh, okay, it's on Coinbase, I must trust it, or if it's on OKX or, you know, and I think when the exchange is more credible, you're more likely to trust it than if you go onto a platform where, you know, the entry requirements are Wild West. Exactly. So, you know, there's a huge difference there between, like, your institutional investors are going to want to look at those bigger platforms because it's a trusted, you know, oh, well, if they've allowed it on their platform, it must be okay. But it's still very much the Wild West on, I'd say, the 10 and under exchanges.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I've still had that issue with staking. And like, staking seems like really easy money, but I've never done a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I remember D said I wouldn't bother when we were talking about it.
Oh, right, D. Yeah, he's referring that Mr. D.
Big D.
Wild scenes here.
I don't know if he wants to be named, but
no, he doesn't for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mr. D.
Mr. D.
Mr. D. Yeah, staking is, just to explain, is a concept where you lock in, and actually, Mr. X, I'd love to know if there's some sort of similar mechanism that exists in TradFi.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like when you put, you know, you get an ISA or a savings account, and they're like, if you promise not to take this money out for 5 years, we'll give you fixed term investment. Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? Because you just say you're not going to take your coins out.
Yeah, because so what you do is you take a ton of your coins, and it can be for any coin, and it's usually the owner of the coin or the token that is setting up this scheme. And what they say is, put X amount of your token, lock it up into a different smart contract, don't touch it for a year. Actually, the smart contract wouldn't allow you to touch it, right? For a year, and then after it's done, you can come and take it back after like a year or 2 years or 3 years, or it can be 100 years. But as far as I understand, this is to prevent token price movement. It's to basically stop it from being so erratic in terms of price movement, and they will reward you for it. You put your tokens away, and when you unstake it, you'll unstake it, but they'll give you a bit of a reward on top.
But would you only stake stable coins, or would you
whatever the token is?
Whatever the token is, whatever the token is. So, like,
no, I don't think there's anything like that. The closest thing, similar to what you said, would just be fixed term.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not for the same reasons, though, is it?
No.
Yeah. So when you do a fixed term,
they use that money then, don't they?
They use it, don't they? And
they lend it to someone else. So like your mortgage is someone else's savings.
Yeah, and then that's what gets me.
It's so depressing when you put it that way. Yeah.
And then they get the money just for lending you somebody else's money.
And then you get 1% back.
Yeah.
And you will be happy with that.
Yeah, and they get 5% on the mortgage.
Yeah.
This is depressing when you when
TradFi's a scam.
I should probably leave the room.
No. Please don't, Mr. X. We need you here for balance.
Yeah.
So, be rude.
Thanks.